what if Jordan Love is actually good? Because this Aaron Rodgers thing, I still maintain that I don't think Rodgers is going back to the Packers. I think it's too hard to piece together, given the problems, given his situation, et cetera, et cetera. So that probably leaves us with this Jordan Love-led Green Bay Packers that nobody thinks are going to have any shot of doing anything, that they're going to be, way behind the chasing pack, so to speak. They're going to be out of division title. They're going to be out of Super Bowl contention because Jordan Love is now the quarterback. But what if Jordan Love's good?
Surprised? Where would your surprised meter be?
I would be surprised, but Jordan Love is of the same ilk of that run of toolsy quarterbacks that have worked out pretty well over recent years. Now,
that's what I was going to say. On paper, it shouldn't work.
Right.
But on paper, Josh Allen and maybe Herbert, some other guys maybe shouldn't have either.
Right. And I think, look, the jury is still out on whether that is a causative thing or if this is just the way the league has run over the last few years, right? Like, you can tie Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones to an extent, Deshaun Watson. You can tie a bunch of these guys together with a very broad stroke brush and say these are all toolsy quarterbacks that happen to have, kind of worked out to some degree or massively worked out at other degrees. And you can say, well, that means that toolsy quarterbacks are inherently a better bet right now than maybe they used to be. Or you can just say, look, these are 5-6 different players who all have varying different skill sets, of which one happens to be physical tools to play the position. It's not like it's going after toolsy quarterbacks is not the thing that's going to get you success. But if you're of the opinion that, hey, look, all these guys with tools have worked out quite well relative to where we thought they could be, Jordan Love ticks that box, right? He's big, he's pretty athletic, he's got a hell of an arm, and he's got some of the Josh Allen stuff about him in terms of lower level of competition, was better the year before his final year in college when he had a bit better of a supporting cast. Like, the parallels between Josh Allen and Jordan Love are quite strong, I would say.
Yeah, the one thing that gives me pause about Jordan Love is I think last season, last season not hearing any buzz about him, not having him active for the Packers. To me, if we didn't have that, I don't think I'd be all that surprised. And I think surprised if he was successful. Now I'm a little bit more hesitant. Like when Mahomes was out for the season, you heard some of those rumblings. Hey, this dude on the scout team is going to be good, and maybe it's time for him to take over for Alex Smith, even though Alex Smith is having a great season.
Don't you think that's kind of different though? Because like the difference in stature between the starter, right? Aaron Rodgers versus Alex Smith. The second Mahomes was drafted, it was like, oh, Alex Smith is on borrowed time. It's just the clock is ticking essentially this year to when he's going to take a seat and Mahomes is going to take over.
Yeah.
Even when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, it was like, oh, so at some point Aaron Rodgers is disappearing, but like nobody expected it to happen during the season. Right?
Yeah.
And certainly not when Rodgers started to play like an MVP level. At that point, it's just like, well, Jordan Love is sometime down the line. And because, like, maybe the fact that he wasn't the number 2 is the thing that would say, all right, that's a red flag. On the other hand, if they determined early that, hey, he's the quarterback of the future, he'll be the number 3, and then we'll sort of develop him from the sideline year 1, like he's never even going to get the reps to prove different. You know what I mean? He's just not going to get given the opportunity to win a different spot on the depth chart. He is just the number 3 for the year. And at which point I don't think it means anything necessarily that we didn't hear a whole lot about him year 1.
Yeah. So then from an on-field standpoint, the thing that I would be excited about for, if the Packers have to play him, he does have that really good arm. He does have really good touch as well. And I think part of the stuff that got Love into trouble in college was partly his aggressiveness. He didn't see a whole lot of throws that he didn't like. And of course, that goes both ways, be with Jameis and, enjoying that part of Jameis's game because you get some of that volatility, you get some of that high-end play. But how much of that was Jordan Love in his last season at Utah State? New system, a little bit lesser supporting cast. So he does have a lot of those, hey, I'm just trying to chuck it through a linebacker a little bit too often, but that also leads to some of those spectacular throws as well, some of those out-of-the-pocket plays. So it's not, look, I don't think the odds are strong that Jordan Love is instantly, the next, forget even just calling him Hall of Famer, but the next great starting quarterback for the Packers. It's just general odds are going to be low for that, going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to like, oh, Jordan Love's here for the next 15 years. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's good. I still think, there's a lot more to see though from him, obviously.
Oh, of course. I mean, there are some things to like that, not the last year, the second last year, which I will, for our purposes, that's the one to focus on, right? Because last season, a bunch of change in college. I don't think that was a fair reflection of who he can be. And certainly for the purposes of like, what if he's good? You almost have to throw that season out completely. So his best season in college, his PFF grade when kept clean, which as we know is like the most stable, predictive part of quarterback play, was 90.4 with a big time throw rate of 5%. That year, he was also phenomenal on the deep ball, which is, what you want and need to see for a guy to be really good at the NFL level is that threat of a deep pass. And then the other thing, as much as it might be concerning that Green Bay stuffed him as the number 3 quarterback on the depth chart and basically didn't mention his name during his rookie season, the fact that they did what they did to acquire him in the first place means that they loved him at the time. Not just because they traded up and drafted him in the first round, but because they did that at a time when it made no sense in terms of like the timeline to move on from Aaron Rodgers. They were at least a year too early to make that move in order for any kind of smooth transition away from Rodgers, which is why this whole situation exists in the first place, right? Because Rodgers' contract was such that this made no sense to happen this offseason. So the Packers essentially said, all right, Rodgers looks like he might be declining. We need to start thinking about his succession plan. And then they love Jordan Love so much that they bumped everything up a year and traded up in the draft to make that happen.
I was going to say, I'm softening in my old age because the more, the analytics folks and what they do for us, it's not as simple. When you're projecting stuff going forward, it's not always as simple as just taking the PFF grades and projecting it forward and saying that's it. They do take, that is what you just described as a data point. How much other people love a player is a data point that does have value, whether I like it or not. Traditionally, I don't like it. Don't overdraft this player that I don't like, right? But it's a data point, right? It is something that says enough people believe this guy was a first rounder. I thought he was a second rounder, or a third rounder, but enough people thought he was a first rounder, which should elevate his status in your mind just a little bit. Like technically from a data standpoint, it should, even though traditionally we say, well, Alex Leatherwood, we said he was a second rounder. You drafted him in the first. That's a reach. That's a miss. So I guess it's more posing the question: how much do you put? How much? I thought Tim Tebow was a first round quarterback because the Denver Broncos picked him in the first round. But even at the time, 11 years ago, I was thinking, man, he's not a first round quarterback. That's just one team that believes it. How much do you put into that data point, so to speak, that somebody believed he was a first rounder? And to your point, at this time when I don't have to draft him, I have to get Jordan Love. I got to have that guy. Like that's a pretty strong vote of confidence in his ability.
It is. It's a massively strong. So what it does, it is a huge endorsement from Green Bay in their level of confidence and their love in that guy, right? So the very minimum, we know that the Packers love this dude, pun intended, when they drafted him. Now, should that have any bearing on what you think? Maybe not. But I think what it should do definitely is ask that question, which is, are you 100% sure? Because these guys over here think something way different to what you do. So I would treat that, like a weird number at the combine, or, one of these strange data points that pops up and looks like an anomaly compared with everything else you see on a player. And just it raises itself as like a check. It's like, are you, a guy runs a 4.2 and you thought he was a 4.4, 4.5 guy. Now, does that mean you toss out all your analysis and everything changes and he's a different player in your eyes? No, but you should probably go and check, right? Like if a guy pops up 0.3 of a second faster than you thought he was, that should send you back to the tape, back to your analysis, and ask, are you 100% certain on everything you decided about this dude? So with Jordan Love, the fact that the Packers did that, I think, should make you go and like recheck where you are on this guy. So when we're, projecting this idea of what if he's good, that's a relevant thing. And, you can create a case between the Packers' endorsement of him, between that penultimate season, between the big-time throws, between the physical tools. Like, you put all this together and you can make an argument that Jordan Love is not like the punchline of a joke, which is the way he's being portrayed right now, that there is actually a chance that a year on the sideline and this dude steps in and actually looks pretty good.